Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about a pattern change, and we're gonna see what's in store for the long range. And if you could tell by the title, it looks as if some chilly air is on its way for a good portion of the United States in the short and medium range forecast, if you will. So before we get into this, if you guys would like to consider subscribing to this channel, I do all sorts of weather-related content. I'm a weather enthusiast, a hobbyist, not a meteorologist. So I don't make official forecasts or anything like that. This is merely all for the fun of it, and many people enjoy it, so I just do it for that, and I enjoy it myself, so why not? So if you guys would like to subscribe, consider doing so. If you would like to like the video, that would be great as well. Otherwise, let's get into this video. So let's start looking at the GFS, and let's take a look at the surface precipitation. So right now we have a pretty expansive low pressure across the Ohio Valley. It's delivering showers across Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Iowa, all those central, really west of the Mid-Atlantic region. It moves into the Mid-Atlantic region, but gets kind of really rushed away by a potential tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane. This would be Isaiah, I think. I will be making a video about this tropical storm later on today, and the potential for this, because I just it's getting to the point where, you know, this is becoming more and more likely to have some sort of impact on the United States. So I will be definitely talking about that. But you can see that after this the storm passes, we get a sharp change in pattern. You can see that we actually get a cooler air mass, a strong high pressure driving into really much of the United States, and this drives in much cooler air. And you could tell because this is more like a ring, kind of like if you were to drop like a raindrop into a puddle, it leaves those rings, that centric pattern, and you can see that's kind of what the high pressure does. Very cool temperatures. You can't tell really just based off how cold it's going to be based off the millibars, but you can tell that it's going to be chilly because of their placement. And afterwards, it seems like it will get warmer, so this is definitely not something for a long range. This is not, you know, August will be all cold. It looks as if by the mid part of August, it looks like it's going to start warming up. At least that's what it looks like as of now. That could change, but that's what the models are indicating. Let's look at the temperature anomalies. This tells us where it is above or below average at what time and what place. And you can see that this is now July 30th, so this is today. You can see a good area of below average conditions across much of the Midwest and into the plains, while the northeast, the east coast, the southeast, parts of the southeast, really just Florida, and the southwest and west and especially northwest are above average. This kind of just stays in the middle, kind of just chills out. You literally chills out, no pun intended. And you can see that some of the anomalies are pretty great. We could get 8 to 12 degrees below average in terms of Celsius, so possibly up to 20 degrees below average in the most below average areas, which would be very, very pleasant cool off. And then by this time frame, we see another cool off coming through, and this is where the storm starts making its way out, this tropical storm slash disturbance making its way out. And you can see that it really brings in even more cooler air, and this one's more dramatic. You can see that if I were to put on the 2-meter temperature shaded, it would be very, very chilly, actually 60s and 70s, so very pleasant. You know, this isn't really unpleasant weather. May get actually, you know, just downright cold during the nighttime. I mean, you can see 48, 49, upper 40s across the upper Midwest. You know, I mean, this has happened before. This is not something that's record-breaking, but it's definitely the equivalent to almost like an Arctic attack in the summer. And you can see that this definitely has a pretty lasting impression. You can see 70s, 60s. It does start dwindling as we go further into the forecasting period. We get less and less of these colors, and we get more and more of the orange and yellow colors starting to make a comeback. And you can see that it starts becoming less and less, and it's basically just a warm pattern at this point, and just a bit of below in some areas. And you can see if anywhere it's going to be below average in the long range, it's going to be the northwest, and that's where they're seeing heat right now, so that will be nice and pleasant. But you can see the south central 2/3 of the United States, really excluding the northwest, are just going to be pretty warm, if you will. 80s and 90s for mid-August are definitely not out of the question, and it seems like that will be the case. But prior to that, obviously we have this pretty nice chill. And you may be wondering, well, let's look at the other models. Maybe this is just exclusive to the GFS. No, the European is on on par with the GFS with this one, it seems. You can see it has that cooler air up until this weekend. Then it brings down a much cooler air mass into Monday, Tuesday, and you can see it has those purple colors. A little bit of a hard word to say, I don't know why. Purple colors across the Midwest and Upper Plains, and it also begins to dwindle as we get into the further forecast range, and by early to mid-August it starts bringing the heat back in, those nice warm temperatures. Unfortunately, it's going to be a bit unpleasant, as usually this means humidity, heat, and unpleasant weather. But again, it's summer, so really what do you expect? You're not going to see 60 during the summer consistently unless it's an extreme year, which this year is far from that. It's an extreme year in the other way, where it's been just ridiculously hot. Let's look at the ensembles, the GEFS ensembles. They're a bit more averaged out. They show you a bit more of what many more models think combined into one image. So it's kind of like a nice image to see versus just a GFS, which could have a lot of jumping around, a lot of extremes, and the GEFS kind of just in general ensembles keep that to a minimal. So you can see that as of now we are still seeing that cool off that is occurring right now across the Midwest, and if we play this back, you can see that it starts from the north, moves to the south, really starts dwindling, but we get this resurgence of cooler air across this weekend, Monday, Tuesday, and this really does provide quite a bit of relief for the Midwest. Northwest may start seeing a bit of chill as well. They are warm as of right now, but it may change, and you can see it's really more chilly air than warm air, but obviously as we push forward, you can see the GEFS ensembles put more of that warm air. Not terribly confident in it. The more further west you go, probably the warmer it will be, really the plains. But generally, it's safe to say it's going to be more of a warm pattern than a hot pattern. And you can see possibly a bit cooler towards the south. This is just way too far out to really make any sort of accurate predictions. The European ensembles, very similar thing. You can see they're first showing the cool air, and then by around the 10th of August, it starts disappearing, and we start getting replaced with warmer air. And it seems like that'll be the pattern that takes hold. Let's take a look at the 6 to 10 day outlook, or 8 to 14 first. You could see that the 7th through the 13th, so this is when a pattern starts breaking. Maybe a bit below average remaining across the central United States, but you can see that the above average starts kind of, I guess, circling the cooler air and starts eating away at it, if you will. And then a 6 to 10 day outlook a little bit earlier, the 5th to 9th, it's more of that cooler air, more dominant, and really just a few areas above average, which is going to be a nice break, and it's going to be much needed. Now, in terms of the precipitation, you can see wetter towards the east coast, and that makes sense with what's been going on, and possibly a bit more activity towards the plains, but generally dry across the south and west. So I guess that's going to be more significant than just above average across the upper plains and east coast. It's going to be affecting the greater area, but you can see in terms of the 8 to 14 outlook precip, it's really divided. Kind of the east more wetter, and the west is more drier, and including parts of the south. But again, it's very hard to predict precipitation during the summertime across the United States, as usually it's just a storm or two, a thunderstorm or two, a setup, one quick event may bring several areas way above average, while they may not occur while the chances that they won't occur are pretty high, and that will leave it drier. So it's really tough, I would say, much tougher than during the winter time, as during winter time it's more consistent. Now it's more erratic, more just extreme from one side to the other, constantly switching, but it's just basically a hit or miss. You can see that, yes, generally the west will be more drier, but that doesn't mean it won't, some areas won't see above average precipitation if they get a thunderstorm or two. Notice that we also see Alaska being chillier, and this extends into parts of British Columbia. Well, this is still Alaska, but we would imagine this extends into part of British Columbia. That could indicate that this has the potential to move further down to southern U.S. If the pattern is right, but again, at this point, we're not seeing that. Let's look at the European precipitation outlook. You can see that we have quite a bit of precipitation across the eastern U.S. and just pretty much bone dry across the west. And that seems to be the case in the 8 to 14 day outlook, as you saw, dry across the west and south, really not that much, but the east, pretty wet. The Ohio Valley, the east coast, coastal area, seeing lots of precipitation into the northeast. Upper plains, maybe a bit of thunderstorms, but again, nothing awfully too significant, it seems, at this time. And if we were to look at the GFS precipitation, it's pretty much a very similar story. The only difference is that this goes out to 384 hours. If we go to 240, you can see it's basically the same. wetter across the East Coast. We have that track of that possible tropical cyclone system. And then we have also just drier across the upper plains, the south, and just really, really dry across the west. And if we were to go, sorry about that, if we were to go all the way to the 384-hour time frame, obviously a bit more precip gets accumulated, but generally across the similar areas, the east and the west stays, the east stays wetter and the west stays drier, and it kind of just, I guess, grows those extremes, you know, it kind of contrasts it. Whether or not this pattern will break, it probably will, obviously, but when it doesn't seem like it will break anytime soon, it seems like, again, the east will be wetter, possibly tropical activity could influence this, and just a more active pattern with storms coming across from the Gulf of Mexico, lots of moisture, and northern plains not seeing that much either, but again, precipitation is very hard to predict during the summertime. If we were to look at, I wanted to show you the Canadian model in terms of its precipitation. You can see the Canadian is really a little bit odd. It shows very little across much of the country, just a few areas where the northern plains a bit more, and across the, you know, the mid-Atlantic region and the northeast. That's about it. And again, but it's been consistent that the west is staying dry. Let's look at the 2-meter temperature anomalies for the Canadian. Usually, again, I've said this before, I don't like looking at this model too awfully much, but it has been doing a pretty good job recently with staying consistent with the other models. Hasn't been showing its own little crazy scenario, which sometimes the Canadian does. And don't get me wrong, it has been right before by showing this, you know, a crazy scenario before. I recall one time it was there was a chance for a northeast snowstorm, and the Canadian was the only one showing for that snowstorm to occur, and it was actually right. The other models kind of, it wasn't right on a placement, but it was right on the fact that it would snow in the northeast quite significantly, and you know, that was like a victory for the Canadian. Doesn't happen too often, but it does, so you can't just ignore it completely. And then notice that we have, again, that cooler air, and we have the constant trend that we get warmer towards the 9th, 10th of August. So if you don't like the cool air, don't worry, it will be out of here. If you're a fan of the cool air, you'll get a nice cool off, which is not that common for the summer with such intensity, this cool off. So definitely consider subscribing, guys. Consider liking if you would like. Up to you. But I'm out for today, so thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.